sheriff deputies, sheriffs, city council members, county council members, you're ignorant, most of you, because you choose to be stupid. And you religious leaders, so-called, you're going to be held account by God for this. You really are. The South is falling. We see it all around us. We've entertained ourselves to death. Hedonism, the pursuit of pleasure. And now the enemies are coming in. You better wake up, folks. Take care.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
We see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Move his spear. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Hawkeye's here.
Hawkeye's here. Move it to the spear.
Spear, get ready. Spear, get ready.
We ready? Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move?
We're
Let's
clear.
move. Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
Got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head, it's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Watch out.
Wait.
Welcome back to Training Tuesday, folks. The Rob Maness Show is live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, personal protection and executive protective services, they matter. The assassination attempt you saw once again on President Trump and the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson brought the concept of executive personal protection into the forefront for the average American almost immediately, and it stays there. Americans take our personal protection so seriously, we still maintain the right to personally bear arms if necessary to protect ourselves, and that mindset extends to everyone, but often an individual's own ability to self-protect becomes impossible when the threat scales up to the level some of our fellow citizens' responsibilities place them in, and they have to get help from professionals. Well, my guest today is an expert in this area. Caleb Gilbert is the founder and president of White Glove Protection Group and a global subject matter expert in executive protection. He's got 25 years or more experience across 51 countries. He's not just done this inside the United States. He moved to Hollywood with $43 in his pocket and a dream to protect the world's most elite, and he made it happen. From building teams for Fortune 200 companies and UHNW families to safeguarding A-list celebrities, Caleb's career reflects exceptional success built on grit, precision, and heart. A self-made entrepreneur since age 11, he pairs real-world experience with top academic credentials, including a master's in global security studies from Johns Hopkins and training from Stanford and ESI. Despite his global reach, though, Caleb's known for being incredibly grounded and deeply committed to mentorship, innovation, and service. Caleb, welcome to the Rob Maness Show, man. You know, entrepreneurs, for me, are American heroes. Men and women that willfully choose to go in that field at a young age. It takes a lot of guts to do that. So I admire you for that, man.
It's a wild ride, to say the least.
It is. All right. I got to ask you, $43 in your pocket, and you built this protective service. I'll call it an empire. You don't call it that, but I'll call it one. I mean, over 50 countries. Come on.
You know, how'd
you do that?
In all honesty, I didn't do that. What I did was I absorbed from the skills, backgrounds, and willingness of those around me. Every step of the way, I was looking for an opportunity to improve, you know, and that's been my goal since I was very young, to learn something new from somebody every single day. As it turns out, you know, over time, that is able to propel us and move us forward. And I've been able to walk into a ton of rooms all over the world with people that I never could have even imagined ever meeting, let alone working for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a big deal, what you've accomplished and what you continue to do, man. You know, since this is about personal protection, especially at the executive level, I had to show the little clip there of the president's attempted assassination from July 13th of last year. Because about the protective part of it. And I just wanted to ask you, I'm sure you get this question all the time. Did you see right away that something was not right when you saw the videos of that?
Well, I'm not, I don't, you know, look at myself as having the right to critique anything. But what I can say is that incident and the events of that day have provided so many learning lessons, both positive and negative. I'll put that out there for the protective industry. And I really think that was a watershed moment for the protection industry, because there's so many things that we can learn and use and grow from. You saw things that went extremely well, even though that might not have been the highlight. And then there were other things that you know could use improvement. And for me and my entire outlook on protection and protecting the world's most at-risk individuals, those nuggets are literally what we as an industry can use to develop standards, guidelines, training protocols, you know, tactics and procedures that will allow future generations of executive protection practitioners to become better, to improve and grow and develop in their ability to safeguard the people that we're entrusted to be around. Yeah.
I did protection for a couple of different presidents and presidential candidates as a bomb disposal tech detached to Secret Service back when I was very young as an enlisted guy in the Air Force. So when I say that, I'm not criticizing or critiquing. I'm just saying, hey, you know, from what I've seen before, I thought those lessons were already learned. That's kind of where I was coming from. You know, I mean, what lessons have folks in your profession taken from that? If you could talk about them without revealing security stuff, because I don't want to dox security techniques and procedures, folks. But are there any major lessons that y'all have learned that have been able to be applied across the spectrum?
Yeah, I mean, there are absolutely lessons, you know, in communication and, you know, clarity and what do we focus on first when we have limited time frames. Different things like that, I think, are very publicly, you know, have been disclosed by the Secret Service themselves as areas that, you know, we can improve in. But I'll tell you, from having worked large details and small details around the world, obviously nothing like POTUS, but alongside Secret Service agents and non-Secret Service agents, everyone has their protective methodologies that work for them. And just because they're done one way with one government organization or in one part of the world there are different tactics and procedures that we have to use in different parts of the world. And so what I really see the biggest benefit to the protection industry from this incident is the ability to say that there is no one size fits all tactic that was developed for, State Department, Secret Service, whomever it might be, that can work for everyone. One of the organizations, ASI, is the largest security organization in the world. I've had the pleasure of being a part of the volunteer leadership team for the executive protection community. One of the things we've been heavily focused on is creating executive protection standards that are relevant to the industry, but also practical to the people on the ground. You see the different deployment, the different response, not only in Bettler, but looking at the United Healthcare CEO, the tower incident in New York recently. All these tragedies are providing a plethora of learning opportunities that we can take back as a protection industry and learn, all right, how can we change our training standards? How can we tell agents, let's be more proactive than reactive? All of these things that might have a place in the protective conversation before, but now the level of attention that has been garnered, the need for protection has shot through the roof. In the last year specifically, and so being able to do that consistently and effectively, but I work a lot in Silicon Valley, and a lot of people in Silicon Valley have risks that are state level risks, right? And they need significant levels of protection. You're talking the people that create the things that we use every single day to do what we do. These people are facing these risks, but they want to live their Silicon Valley lifestyle. How do you insulate them without impeding their ability to live their lives, to have their families, have their special memories, without a bunch of goons walking around them, right? And that's where the industry is really moving forward to develop an integration of digital executive protection, physical executive protection, and fusing that together in a product that facilitates lives, protects them at the same time, but doesn't get in their way from being able to be the humans that they are.
Yeah, that's one of the areas I want to get you to dive into a little bit here, because, with the president of the United States, that person has volunteered to do it. They know their life is gone. They're not even allowed to drive a car on a public road, for goodness sake. Their families can't either, I don't think, while they're in office and anything. So, but that's totally different. And you touch on that. You just touched on that, normal people. And I'm not saying that like Mark Zuckerberg type person is a normal person, but he's not a government guy that has voluntarily given up his life, and his family's life. They want to continue to be able to live their families. And I'm curious as to y'all's approach to that kind of effort. The one of the things that bugs me is that people tend to think this is an easy thing. Average citizens that don't have the problem. But the other thing that also bugs me is like Mr. Thompson, the healthcare CEO guy, was he aware of the threat? How do you know? Rob Maness, I can arm myself in my country and concealed carry and all that, so I'm comfortable with my own protection. I've had a few threats, but nothing that would raise alarm bells where I go, man, I gotta have a detail with me when I'm traveling anywhere in the country. Anyway. How does somebody know that they might need a detail? What are the things they look for? That's one of the questions I've got for you. We've got to take a break here in a minute, so we'll probably have to continue answering it after that. But tell us about that. How do you know when you're at that level? And what do you advise folks when they come?
Absolutely. I recommend a risk-based approach. We have a very well-documented, laid-out system of identifying risk. What is risk? Everything we do in life is dangerous. It's finding that balance between risk acceptance and risk mitigation. And having bodyguards around you, that's risk mitigation. Accepting that you can't protect against everything is something that I have to do when I'm talking to protectees, to the clients and sharing with them, more of an education process, letting them know, all right, if you want to do this high risk activity, we can mitigate the risk, but it's going to be a lot more like a security detail for a government official rather than your normal citizen just going about your activities, So it's this sliding scale of risk that we as an industry have to find healthy ways to ebb and flow so that we're not overprotecting them when it's a low risk situation or overprotecting them when they don't need it or want it.
Absolutely. Well, we've got to take a commercial break, Caleb. When we come back, we'll see another little clip about intelligence and surveillance. And it gets to what you brought up about digital protective services. I'm curious as to what the company's approach is to that and how it integrates into the rest of the operational level work that you do. We'll be right back with Caleb Gilbert. He's the CEO of a great protective services company.
Here at the White House on Saturday, we saw a large protest gathering outside. So we walked out of the gates, conducted a few interviews. I spoke with this woman. She even gave me her card. Now, hours after that interview, we're learning she was arrested for allegedly making death threats against President Trump's life online, saying she wanted to disembowel him and cut out his trachea. That's according to the DOJ. Here's some of that interview.
To have these COVID losses where people are manipulated out of just safe and effective vaccines to the point of death in this regime is completely intolerable. We aren't going to have a fascist regime just killing patients in mass, driving them away from their simple and effective health care. It's unconscionable. It's not a political issue. This should be health care. It never should have been made partisan. It's a tragedy for the United States of America. This regime has to go, the whole administration. You do not deploy the military against the American people. We will not be suppressed. We will not exist in an authoritarian regime. We will not accept fascism.
During that interview, we had no idea that this woman was already under investigation. She had done this voluntary interview on Friday, August 15th with the United States Secret Service, where she told them that she believed President Trump was a terrorist and a Nazi and that she wanted to use a bladed object to, quote, carry out her mission. Now, as of now, Jones has not entered any kind of plea.
As Judge Janine, I just wanted to let you know here from the United States Attorney's Office in D.C. that an individual by the name of Nathalie Rose Jones is now in custody, charged with 2 federal crimes for knowingly and willfully threatening to take the life of the President of the United States. She did come from New York to Washington, D.C., and she has been threatening and calling for the removal of the president, and even worse, as she got to D.C., her threats were on Facebook and Instagram, and she continued to call the president a terrorist and was working to have him eliminated. She is now in custody. She will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Make no mistake about that.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Training Tuesday. We're learning about personal protective services, folks. And my guest today is Caleb Gilbert. He's the CEO of White Glove Protection, entrepreneur since he was 11 years old. Started with $43 in his pocket and has built an international protective service company that's highly effective. And Caleb, we were talking in the last segment, you touched on it a little bit about the integration of not just agents providing a detail, but digital services and cyber protection and those kind of things. And I wanted to just meld that in with intelligence, because without good intelligence, the work you do is extremely difficult to be successful at. But there's a surveillance aspect to this too that's part of a protective service, isn't there, that you were talking about? How do y'all do that?
Yeah, so one of the most needed trends that we've seen really in the last 10 years, it's come to light in the last couple of years, the digital executive protection aspect of what it takes to protect an at-risk individual. Digital executive, I call it your net print, right? Anything that's online that shows that's associated with you. That is what, unfortunately, bad actors use consistently to get in touch with the people that they want to do harm with. And so a big part of what us and strategic partners do around the world is take and mitigate and provide that digital executive protection. You look at the loss of life in Wisconsin from the government officials there. That killer went and actually posted where he got that information from those sites, from those people search sites that had their home addresses, that had their private information. A lot of people don't realize how easy it is to either buy or just look up people's home numbers, cell phone numbers, addresses, businesses, all those things, and see who's connected to who. That is one vector that threats often take to get in touch with at-risk individuals. This pairs together with our overall risk assessment process that we use to decide who gets what level of protection, right? Because as you could only imagine, the executive protection is not an inexpensive venture to pursue. Protecting the president costs a lot of money. Protecting at-risk individuals is no different. And so when we're looking to try to be responsible with the budgets and with the organizations that we work with, we look to figure out, all right, based on the intelligence, based on the risk assessments that we're able to provide, known information, unknown information, how do we identify and allocate a risk level based on what might happen, but is balanced with what could happen and the severity of that impact on the people that we protect. Basically, it's a sliding scale that we constantly fluctuate to make sure that if we put an agent on body with the protectee, they are providing the appropriate level of protection. If the risk rating shows that they need an up-armored vehicle and we're running with soft-skinned vehicles, that is irresponsible on our part. So we want to make sure that our recommendations are a direct reflection of the risk. And so that's why we have such a large intelligence apparatus in the background supporting everything we do, taking and really intaking all the data as it becomes available, analyzing it, and then applying the solutions that work best for our clients.
We got a question from the audience. I do take live audience questions, so we'll go ahead and take the first one now. But I have a follow-up question to that. All right, Shell is our hostess over in the live audience. Shell, go ahead with the question.
We have Randall, sir.
Hey, thank you so very much, sir, for letting me be on. I'm kind of new to spaces. I wanted to ask, with your threat assessment, I'm actually in the same business you are, and especially in the entertainment business, especially with the music business, I'm sure it's happened for a long time, and I'm young, so I'd like to know the answer to this. A lot of the time, the clients, when we're doing details with them, sometimes their lifestyles, their choices, even the entourage that they have with them's choices, or maybe what they have, affect the job in a way that can make it more dangerous for the agent or the person protecting that person. And I was wondering how you and your organization usually address those type of situations, whether it be, criminal activity, illegal gun possession, drugs mixed with guns, how you address that with a client.
For us, it's very simple, and I hate to be draconian about it, but We work with clients that are doing good things for good people within the bounds of the law. Anybody's entourage that is involved in anything questionable, automatically that's a no-go for us. It's a lot harder for some companies that rely on those details, especially if they're on tour and there's different variables that they need to keep them working. Let me tell you, I worked Hollywood, my first 9 years in the industry as a contractor, and I worked for 29 different protective agencies simultaneously just to stay busy. And so when an artist said we need an extra person to go on tour with us, I ran into situations like you're describing left and right. And two things, you have to remember, you're not necessarily law enforcement when you're out there protecting an individual, but also each of us has our own morals and values. And I think that the people that we work with need to be a direct reflection of the morals and values that I as an individual hold. The legal ramifications of that obviously are greatly impacted from that. But when you're out there working, your reputation as an agent is on the line. And if that entourage is doing activities that would affect your reputation, the solution to that, in my mind, is very simple. Find a different protectee. There's lots of opportunities out there. Might be a painful separation, but in the long run, I have seen agents' careers ended by silly entourage antics.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I hadn't really thought about it from the perspective of the safety of the agent and the team that are providing protection for the individual who may be okay, but their entourage could be sketchy. Not that we haven't seen any movies about sketchy entourages before.
Half the time, the entourages have just recently attached to the individual.
Yeah.
So, even if you have backgrounds on everybody in the crew and, know who you're working with and what their, licenses are and capabilities are, these entourages are somebody that joined them, at the strike party the other night. And, it's an unknown individual. And they are oftentimes the source of very bad series of choices for a lot of people. And so sometimes you have to separate, sometimes you can manage it, and you can insulate the protectee as well. It just really depends on your relationship with the protectee and how much trust and confidence they have in your competence.
Absolutely. Well, before the question, you were talking about this digital capability of intelligence, surveillance, cyber, integrated with operations, on a personal protective detail, and those kind of things. And I just wanted to ask you, obviously when you started your company, we didn't have the tech that we have now. What does it take to build the infrastructure for a company like yours to be able to say, hey, we have this capability? How did you do that? And what kind of capabilities did you have to build into this?
Well, fortunately and unfortunately, I have followed a very non-traditional path to where I am at now. And so I started out, like I mentioned, 9 years in Hollywood, moved on to becoming a full-time employee of Fortune 200 corporations and private family offices of some of the world's richest, wealthiest individuals. Those opportunities developed relationships that I've been able to work with over the last 25 years and develop capabilities, both in my strategic partners, as well as my full-time teams as well. And so the solutions that we have at White Glove are built on decades of experience with my team. My executive leadership team has decades of experience, both in government, private sector, working with family offices at the highest level. And so the contacts that we develop, the solutions that we developed as full-time employees of some of the world's wealthiest individuals, those solutions is what we've brought over with White Glove. And that's what we're able to deliver for clients who wouldn't traditionally have access to the same level of solutions as we had in our previous positions. And so that's really, a big part of the White Glove difference is being able to bring that experience to bear, because developing the tools, tactics that are relevant for the private sector is something that not everybody focuses on. A lot of people are experienced in government. A lot of people are experienced in military and law enforcement and have incredible careers, traversing the world, shooting bad people in the face. but that doesn't always translate right away when it comes to the private sector and the limitations, the challenges. You mentioned earlier, what do you do if a protectee doesn't want protection, right? We're not talking about notice to where they have to accept it. There are very few corporate boards that have mandated that their CEOs are mandated to receive protection. By mandated, I mean, if they don't accept protection, they're going to lose their job. Right. There's very few CEOs out there that have it. They are out there, but it's very few. The majority of our clients are individuals who the risk has gotten so high that they can't ignore it. And so finding whatever level of appropriate protection is really a calibration process of figuring out, all right, how can I mitigate these risks that we've already identified through our intelligence and assessments and you know, all of those solutions? How do we apply it? And our specialty at White Glove is really taking and developing a custom solution for each principal. There's no way that we used to do it. I like to say I'm a nobody from nowhere. I fell in love with executive protection when I was 16, and this is all I've ever done. And so I don't have a previous career to pull back from. It's always been focused on developing a solution for the person that I was assigned to protect. And that's what our company really specializes in, is just taking and figuring it out. You know, one of my clients, they had extremely high risk, but they didn't want the Navy SEALs to be around them that we had on the team. And so I took and developed the first 100% covert protection team that operated around the world everywhere they went, but nobody knew that the team even existed. And that was an incredible learning opportunity to be able to develop new tradecraft and pull from the intelligence community's tactics and procedures and all that, but use it specifically for the protection of the individuals that I was working for.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and you have to do it in some really odd situations and locations. And the next clip will talk about a golf course location, and I want to talk about how you build a team to address somebody that spends their time in an unusual location or two throughout their day. We'll be right back with Caleb Gilbert, the CEO of White Glove Protection. Amazing. It is amazing, folks, because it's very rare. I don't think I've ever met anybody that started out as a teenager in this particular sector of business and continues to do it 25 plus years later without not having been in the government. That's pretty amazing. We'll be right back.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
In the area of the shooting, sources say they recovered a backpack and a semi-automatic rifle. It was described as an AK-47 in the preliminary reporting, and a GoPro camera. The last piece is very interesting because it suggests, if there was such a camera there, that this individual may have wanted to record himself in a first person doing the shooting. So a lot of questions to be answered. Is the suspect, they have the right person? Is that the right car? You know, the weapon that they have has to be processed for evidence and ballistics. If there's video on that camera, if in fact it was recovered as we are told, what will that tell them? But that is what we are seeing right now.
Show. It's Training Tuesday. We're learning about the executive personal protection from a guy that's been doing it all his life. Caleb Gilbert's the CEO and founder of White Glove Protection Services, and has been doing executive level protection since he was a teenager. He's been thinking about it. So this is pretty amazing. And Caleb, I wanted to show that clip because of the location. That location is a tricky. It's a tricky security problem set, even for the Secret Service, for something like a golf course, which is generally, got the public be able to come up to the fence line. In this case, the guy was in the trees and the shrubbery, and fortunately, one of the agents that was with the president out in the lead saw the guy and took the right action that led to a safe into that incident. But securing something like a golf course, I'm assuming you guys have that capability and you face strange situations and locations probably more often even than the Secret Service does, because you don't have the size and the footprint that they do, which probably doesn't help them, to be honest with you. And they were lucky; they just had the individual inside detail with the president that day, and it was very fortunate they were able to put that situation at rest pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the power of the advance agent. At the end of the day, we have advance agents for a reason, and that is to clear the path, prepare the way, if you will. A lot of things, went right. You can ask, why was that individual allowed to be there that long before they were identified by the advance agent? But this really highlights the importance of fusing together technology with human protectors, and I think that's something that a lot of teams have been behind the curve on, but it's becoming more front of mind, top of mind for individuals now, because fusing together the digital and the physical protection worlds is really a way that we can take and be a force multiplier, so that when we are in that close bubble that I like to call it around the protectee, we know that there's not just protective measures taking place right where everybody can see. That protective bubble expands and it contracts based on the risks facing the individuals we're protecting. And so if we're walking through Monaco with an ultra high net worth individual, our protective bubble is going to look extremely different than if we're walking through New York City with that same ultra high net worth individual. The similarities will be the structure of the team and based on risk, how many people are there, what countermeasures we put in place, what contingencies we have, and what coordination do we need to make sure takes place with the individuals that allow us to be there, if you will. So that the digital world has emerged in the last 10 years as something that we can use to extend beyond arm's reach, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're using it right and you understand it, it can be a very, very effective tool in this business of it. We got more questions from the audience. We'll go ahead and take one real quick. Go ahead, Shell.
We have Wib, sir.
Thank you, Shell. Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. I would probably never need White Glove unless I won the lottery. Is there a quick and easy way that you can translate some of this into what we can do personally to kind of assess the risks that we go into when we say, for example, go to an event, go to the store, just leave the house?
Absolutely. You look at every environment that you enter or you leave, and there's a baseline in that environment. I like to oversimplify it when I'm talking, about real people, people that aren't being protected, if you will. And I call it thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or thumbs down. Bone simple, anybody can do it. We use a lot of tradecraft, behavioral analysis, micro expressions, combination with technology, correlation, all of that to say those are fancy ways that we protect people. The average person in their house can do the same thing. You can call it gut feeling, whatever you want. But as you walk into a room, as you look around the room, take microseconds to look at each individual in that room. If the people you're looking at in that room they'll all have a baseline for that room. It'll be different in a club than it will be at a beach or whatnot. But everybody there will have a baseline, and that's what's normal for that environment. That's the thumbs up, we call it, right? As you look around, it's a thumbs up. These are normal people doing normal things that you would expect in that environment. Now, if you get through that crowd and there's somebody that is like, well, there's something just not right, that's what we call a thumb sideways. We're not saying this person has nefarious intent, but I would say that this person is worth paying attention to. This is often the phase of this process where after an incident happens, people are like, oh, I thought that person had a bad intent or whatever it was. Or I thought they were a bad person. That is what we call thumb sideways, and any thumb sideways, we really say, hey, pay extra attention. If you need to cross over to the other side of the road, cross over, whatever you need to do, but don't ignore it. That's the big thing I want to get across for that is thumb sideways. Don't ignore it. Thumbs down is somebody that is out of line with that baseline that you've established, and there's something drastically wrong, It might be anything. It could be a nefarious actor. It could be, a person having a bad day. But whatever it is, that is where you need to take action. That's where run, hide, fight comes in. That's where each of the action-based solutions kick in. And this is a way to be proactive about your own safety. Thumbs up when you walk in the room. It's all good. Move along. Thumb sideways, pay a little extra attention, make sure that you're identifying what it is so that if that escalates to a thumbs down, you can get out of there. Simple 3-step process that everybody can do. I teach my kids, I teach my wife, I teach my friends. At the end of the day, if it's thumbs up, all good. If it's thumbs down, get out, stay safe.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Good way to put it too. Thumbs up, sideways, down. I wanted to ask you, since you don't have government experience, what's your methodology from a mentoring perspective for your agents? I haven't even gotten to the who you hire yet question, but maybe we can get to that in the last segment. But how do you present yourself as a leader? Because you're leading very highly skilled, highly effective, highly action-oriented individuals, whether they've been in government or not, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This has been a incredible process for me. It was about 15, 16 years ago when I hired my first, tier 1 team, we'll call it. And as I started hiring these individuals, I was like, I'm a nobody from nowhere that is hiring these heroes of the industry, SEALs, Recon, GRS, Ground Branch, PJs, all these people that have been highly impactful to the world are now working on my team, and I am their hiring manager. I'm the one that says, how much they get paid, hire, fire, all of those things. It was a learning process for me, and I didn't do it well at first. But after about 2.5 years of leadership coaching that my employer was gracious enough to provide for me, I developed what I call my leadership methodology. And that's fundamentally transformed my ability to lead high-performing teams over the years. I try to simplify things when at all possible, as in point in case, thumbs up, thumb sideways, thumbs down. But identifying the expectation as a leader, it's my goal to identify the expectation for each individual on my team. The expectations that somebody coming from a tier 1 background might be different than someone coming from purely Hollywood background or law enforcement, right? And so clearly identifying what the expectations are is incredibly impactful. Then documenting those expectations. We all know that different people learn different ways, and so being able to take and identify what is expected, then document it. Whether it's the client's expectations, whether it's the stakeholders' expectations, whomever it might be, we take and document it, put it down on black and white so that we can take and the individual can look at it, and we can see if there's any misinterpretations or lack of clarity. Identify the expectation, document the expectation, and then it creates the need. It's kind of the carrots. Like, all right, here's what we want for you. We're going to do really good things here. And then everybody needs a stick. And this is something I didn't find for several years. I thought high-performing individuals would always perform highly, As it turns out, that is not true. And people tend to do what people do. And that is, if there's not an enforcement mechanism, people will sink to whatever level they think is appropriate. And so enforcing the expectation is the third step that I implemented a couple years later. And it was incredible to see the reduced turnover, the increased job performance, the increased, ability for people to be able to thrive in their roles, when we created White Glove to create the next generation of practitioners, because I have a passion for bringing the industry to the next generation of protectors who will be protecting long after I'm gone. And so with White Glove, that was our vision. And so taking that and saying, all right, we want to facilitate the success of each agent that's entrusted to protect these leaders of the world, these leaders of business and finance in Silicon Valley. We want to facilitate the people that are protecting them. And so that's a big part of the methodology that started back then and how it's evolved now. And it's incredible to see the results.
Yeah, I bet it is, man. Well, we got to take our last break. And when we come back, though, I want to dive into who you hire. Who you hire to build that team that can't be seen, but is still just as effective at personal protection for a high net worth or a senior executive or a senior government person that has the threats against them. We'll be right back with Caleb Gilbert, CEO of White Glove Protection.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed.
With today's action, I'm directing the Department of State, the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Secret Service, the Department of Transportation, and many other departments and agencies to use every tool at their disposal to ensure a fantastic, safe, and beautiful event. In 2028, the Olympics is bringing back our national pastime, baseball. Wow, that's great. With teams playing under the lights at the legendary Dodger Stadium, and it is legendary. It's beautiful, one of the most beautiful. Squash players will go head-to-head inside the world-famous Universal Studios. Triathletes will sprint beneath the sun shining down on Venice Beach. This will be one of the great venues. I mean, when you think of it, right? It's going to be so incredible. Soccer teams will face off at the legendary Rose Bowl. Sailors will race through the waters near the port of Los Angeles, and the opening ceremony will take place at the beautiful Memorial Coliseum, just like the Olympics of 1932 and 1984. That was something. Those were very important Olympics. 1932 was a very important Olympics, wasn't it, huh? For 8 straight consecutive summer games, no one has won more medals than Team USA, which is incredible. We want to keep it that way. Over the years, Team USA has won triple the number of Summer Olympic gold medals as the next closest country, and I'm confident that that's going to continue in 2028. That's an amazing achievement by the
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Training Tuesday, and we're talking about executive level personal protective services from a company called White Glove Protection. And the CEO, Caleb Gilbert, is my guest today. Caleb, I just wanted to lay that out there that, one of the areas that you work a lot in is California, I presume, since you mentioned Silicon Valley. And this Olympics and the World Cup, it's going to attract a lot of these extremely wealthy, extremely powerful individuals that are all going to be needing protection. How do you hire teams and train them that are capable of doing things like what you discussed earlier, disappearing so nobody knows they're there? When your hiring pool, I know, is, you mentioned it, Navy SEALs, law enforcement, and those kind of things. What's your methodology there?
Well, we have a very unique structure that's been developed over the last 15 years, and it really takes a long time to enter into our world. We like to watch people as they operate even before we consider them for positions. But our formal hiring process, has 5 phases. It looks at the individual. It looks at the totality of the individual, not just what's on their resume. And I think that's where a lot of executive protection companies are just trying to hire somebody, that has a license or has the training stamp or whatever fits the role. And really, when we're looking at building teams, I like to call it constructive conflict. If we're building a large team, let's say we're building a team of 50 agents for a protectee, and you have these individuals on this team, I don't like to bring in too many people of a single background for that individual, because what often happens when you have somebody that has a specific way that they used to do it is they directly apply that in what they're doing today. It worked for me for the last 30 years. They continue on doing that. Part of our success in the protective world has been being able to find individuals that are looking for new, better, innovative, and effective ways to keep people safe. And so that is what we're looking for. But I don't want to hire all of the same people. I try not to hire any more than 2 or 3 individuals from a specific background, even on the larger teams, because that constructive conflict of thought, you might have your PJs that did it one way, your SEALs that did it another way, your DevGru guys that did it another way. You might have your law enforcement, SWAT, Secret Service, FBI, all of those teams have a different way of doing it. What I like to do is take the best of the best, collect them all together, and then let them out. You have to manage it well, but as long as they're productively looking for a way to do it better, then the best from all those organizations, the solutions they bring to the table, and the distillation process of them saying, no, my way's better. No, my way's better. Once we figure out what's best for our client, that's where the magic happens. That's where we're able to take and be part of the ecosystem of individuals that don't want guards, guns, and gates, but they face risks every single day.
Absolutely. Okay, put a myth to rest here. Special ops people are not all these 6'3", 250-pound, muscle-bound guys carrying ARs, right?
The superhero image from the 80s, right? Like everybody's a Rambo.
Exactly.
I would say it's been interesting for me hiring a lot of individuals with incredible backgrounds. Every shape, every size, every color. Guess what? Like effective people are effective people regardless. And I think the big thing is different teams need different solutions, and not all bodies are purpose built. When I was younger, I ran 15 miles a day. Now I'm 260 pounds. If I run 15 miles, it's a bad day. Something went drastically wrong.
Yeah, I was an EOD man, but I weighed 125 pounds and 5'10" for most of that time. But just go look at Mike, the EOD man, Delta Force guy. You'll know who he is if you Google him on X. Mike EOD and Delta Force, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I appreciate you doing that for me. We got questions over the audience. Let's go ahead and take one before we get to the end of the show. Go ahead, Shell.
We have Jennifer, sir.
Hello. My question is, when you're going into a hostile environment, like where Antifa's present, and there is maybe lack security, but you're not allowed to carry any weapon because of the law of the place that you are at, on paper. What would be your best advice, like per se, like keys or a little bottle of hairspray, because you can't even have the real deal of pepper spray or an actual pocket knife, and that's just my question.
Yeah. It's been incredible to watch, especially over the last 5 years, right? The environments and how quickly they change. And I'm going to circle right back to the thumbs up, thumbs down, thumb sideways, because when you walk into an environment like that, the brain that you have been equipped with is your best tool. And knowing when to go is more important than being able to scratch somebody with keys. It's more effective. I have mitigated more life-altering interactions by simply walking away before it happened than I have by actually having to draw my weapon and use that to enforce what's right for humanity. So at the end of the day, when you're walking into an environment, when you are taking that step, being aware of what is in that environment, being aware of when the tides change from something that you can actively participate in, that you can, make your voice heard, or whatever your reason for being there is. Identify when that trajectory has changed. As soon as it goes thumbs sideways, or thumbs down, just get out of there. It's not always possible. When it comes to tools to be able to navigate, there's tons of good tools, but at the end of the day, you're not going to mess with physics, and crowds surging is a dangerous place to be. And I've walked through massive venues. I've walked through massive protests with my protectees, to where we had an extremely large team, and the crowd surges, and there's nothing you can do when it's too late. And so my encouragement to you is get out of there as soon as you feel the tides are shifting, before something bad happens, so that you don't have to use your keys. At the end of the day, there are effective ways to use them, and use whatever you can, however you can, if you need to keep yourself or others safe. But there's limited effectiveness in, whether it's tasers, whether it's gas, whether it's keys, whatever it might be. There's limited effectiveness when you're talking about a crowd. That's not something that you can overcome as a human being. And so having the mental fortitude to say, I want to be here, but I'm thumbs sideways or thumbs down, I'm out. That would be my advice to stay safe, stay alive.
Crowd dynamics and crowd psychology is a special science in and all of its own. Just ask the normal everyday Americans who found themselves in the wrong place, but being driven or forced to go somewhere on January 6th, for instance, in Washington, D.C. in 2021. Be aware of your surroundings. Okay, before I let you go, you guys have a special giveaway program on your website, I think. Go ahead and describe that for folks, and then tell folks where they can find you, Caleb.
Yeah. www.whitegloveprotection /podcast. We'll be posting it shortly. Actually, it's not up quite yet, so give me a minute. But it is just a quick video on how to identify a nefarious actor, a bad person, before they do something bad. We take and we use the behavioral analysis and just describe some simple steps that you as an individual can take to keep yourself safe, happy, and productive.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate you spending the time with us. This has been fascinating. Good luck out there. If there's anything I can do to help you, just don't hesitate to call us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Caleb Gilbert, CEO of White Glove Protection, folks. Go check it out. It's an interesting company. He's an interesting guy, got an interesting team. All right, so tomorrow is Whistleblower Wednesday, and my old friend, retired U.S. Army Colonel Conrad Reynolds is going to be with us, and his big activism perspective the last couple of years since he last ran for office in Arkansas has been securing our elections. And the president of the United States has started an initiative to return to total paper ballots at the federal level. So Conrad's going to come on and talk about what the president has said, what different states are thinking about it. He's an expert in Arkansas, so we'll talk to him about that and what the efforts are to secure our elections. And it probably more importantly is what we need to identify as the resistance efforts to secure our elections back to paper ballots so they can be fully audited and can't be messed with things like the internet or a USB stick even. And it's critically important because we cannot let what happened in 2020 and what has happened around the world, really, with digital devices being involved in elections. The last one was South Korea, where essentially a CCP, a Communist Chinese Party-backed individual, has been put into the highest office in the land. We cannot allow that to continue to happen, especially here in the United States of America, if we are going to remain the shining city on the hill, the beacon of liberty for all in the world. We cannot allow it, just like we cannot allow illegal aliens at the 55 million level of people to remain in this country while at the same time have a legal immigration process. We cannot allow the illegals to stay, just like we cannot allow nefarious elections to continue to occur in this country. It must end. So tomorrow, Whistleblower Wednesday, Conrad Reynolds. I look forward to the conversation. I'll see you then.